Hello guys, thanks for joining us. For you who haven't tuned into any of my regular Shamanic Facebook Live events, my name is Declan Quigley. I'm a shamanic practitioner, and shamanism basically is the most ancient form of spiritual practice known to humanity. It goes back right the way to Stone Age and can be traced right back here in Ireland and in most countries around the world. So if anyone has a handle on good positive health, good positive mental health perspective of the world, it's those who practice shamanism and shamanic oriented people in general. So this is a new initiative for me. This is a new series of Facebook Lives that I think is very, very important. Over the last few months, really, but especially more recently, a lot of people have been highlighting and speaking to me about negative mental health. And a lot of that obviously is to do with the lockdown that we've been going through, our lockdowns and the coming and the going, and we don't know where we are. We can't predict, and there's a great disconnection from all of us. So I thought I would do something around mental health and perhaps talk about mental health quite a bit and give some tips and strategies to deal with mental health difficulties and people in crisis. And it's such a large area that I think we just can't look at mental health generally. We have to look at each individual aspect of mental health. And that's what I plan to do over the next few weeks and maybe months. So let's start off, first of all, with getting ourselves into a good grounded state, because when we're in a good grounded state, then we avoid the difficulties of mental health. One of the great opposites of bad mental health is grounding and being comfortable and relaxed and being in a place of peace. So you could say peace is the opposite of bad mental health. So let's do that first of all. And I generally work with the drum because I feel the drum impacts on our psyche and our brainwave levels fundamentally, and allows us to come down from a heightened state and get into a place of peace. It's okay. So we'll do that. And this is going to be a guided meditation, as most of my meditations are. So if you put your feet firmly on the ground, take off your shoes if you like, and feel the energy of the earth coming up through the ground, through your feet and up your body. And try to be as relaxed as possible. Be conscious of your body. Be conscious of letting everything flop down. Let everything go south, just for this small period of time. And close your eyes. Listen to the sound of the drum. Let the beat and the rhythm carry you away. walk down the chakras. So we usually keep our awareness or consciousness in the head space. But it is very much a movable feast. This is a journey of imagination. A journey of visualization. And the imagination ties in to the intention. And as any energy worker would know, intention is everything. To navigate frequency and vibration. So imagine you've got a big black bag, a bin liner, rubbish bag. Move your consciousness from your headspace down to your throat chakra, down to your throat, and look out from that space. Imagine how the world would look those several inches down from where you usually see it. Look out from that place. The throat chakra is the place where you speak your truth, your creativity. In our comings and our goings, negative energy builds up in our chakras. Because our chakras are our energy points that connect us to the world and the world to us. So when we talk about our throat chakra, we talk about the frustration that builds up when we're unable to speak. When we are unable to be creative. So clear all that dark energy, all that rubbish. Clear all that up. You know what it is. You've experienced it yourself. Clear all that up and put it into the black bag. And now the throat chakra is spinning unhindered. Putting out and bringing in positive energy. Take a step down now into the heart chakra. place of love and care. And we see the accumulation of all those instances when you feel or you perceive that you're not being loved, or you perceive a disconnection. Clear all that rubbish up, put it in the black bag. And move down to your solar plexus chakra. Solar plexus is about confidence, self-esteem, belief in yourself. And a lot of the time, through people's loud voices and loud opinions, our confidence is reduced. And all those many experiences of people criticizing and telling us that they're not quite what they want us to be or what we should be in their eyes. All that creates a buildup of negative energy in the solar plexus. So clear all that out now. Again, you know what it is. You know the instances and events that happened. So clear it all up and put it in the black bag. And take a step down now. Into the sacral chakra. Sacral chakra is about creativity. Again, it's about our basic functions, about procreation, our sexuality, and there's no more of a hot potato than sexuality with so many people given their opinion. And of course, we're all different. How we perceive all that. We're individual, and that's our beauty. But again, people shout loud and undermine and force their opinions. And sometimes we're left in a position where we're unsure to trust ourselves. And that is the very root of bad mental health. Clear all that up, all that negative energy. Put it in the bag. a step down to the root chakra. And the root chakra is about our very existence. Anybody going through existential crisis, that's the root of it, literally. And it's a great center of our energetic system where fear impacts. And for a very long time, there has been no more fearful time than at the moment. There is, in fact, a pandemic of fear. So whatever you're fearful of, whatever's impacting upon you, whatever's crippling you, clear all that up. Put it in the bag. And now go down the rest of your body, down your legs, under your feet, down to that point just about 3 inches under your feet, your Earth Star Chakra. It's our plug-in to this great ecosystem. And now you are in the bosom of Mother Earth. Beautiful place, that womb of creation. The mother that gave birth to us all. And the mother will come give her the black bag, full of negative energy. She will take it and transform it into positive energy. Feel the calmness, the quiet, and the silence. Of this place where you came from. Feel the calmness. great power that grows the smallest of plants and equally grows the huge oak tree or redwood. Feel the calmness. Feel the belonging. Feel the heartbeat of the earth. Attune yourself to the frequency, that life-giving, healing frequency of the earth. Now, it's time to go back up and bring our awareness, our consciousness up to the headspace again. So begin that journey up through the feet, up the legs, in through the root chakra. Sacral chakra, all spinning perfectly now with all the negative energies removed. Up to the solar plexus. Into the heart, feeling the warm, beautiful energy of the heart. Up to the throat chakra. And then eventually settling again right behind the eyes. Okay guys, hope that was useful in grounding. And again, as I was saying earlier, grounding is a great advocate if we are dealing with mental health crises or even mild impacts of bad mental health. And I don't think there are any of us that aren't at this particular moment, because we really don't know what's happening next, really. Could be anything. We've been fed a lot of information about a deadly virus that will take our lives away. By the way, the survival rate from COVID apparently is 99.97% of the people that get it. So you have to ask yourself, is this legitimate? Is this fear legitimate? Whether it is or whether it's not, the point of it is it's here, it's impacting upon us, and we're going to have to do something about it before it reaches the stage where it becomes more than a pandemic. It becomes a world crisis. Okay, so maybe some of you are saying, well, who's this guy and what's he all about, and why is he talking about mental health? So I'll give you a bit of my background and my life experience. I was born in Derry and lived there up until maybe about 15 years ago. And back and forward to England and other places. My first experience of mental health was in London and working for the local council and rehabilitation centre for people with mental health difficulties that were coming back out from hospital. So I spent a few years there, and at that point returned home to do my degree, and my degree was in psychology, because I found through that experience that I have a genuine interest in the mind and how the mind works and all that type of thing. So did my degree, worked a lot then with various client groups, and I think the common denominator was mental health. I was working with people with learning disabilities, working with people with sensory disabilities. Oh, hello. Hi, Kevin. Hi, folks. Rosie. How you doing? Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, so working with all sorts of people, and eventually went on to do a postgrad in social work. So worked as a social worker in child protection for 10 years. And in that, you tend to see a lot of really, really bad mental health. And then, of course, we've got to do something about that. Not only the victims of abuse and neglect, but the perpetrators of abuse and neglect. And where their mental health is at, and it's never a good place. At that point, I found that all impacting upon my own mental health, and it took me a while to realize how dramatically that was impacting upon me. And before I knew it, I was in a deep, deep depression, and eventually had to leave that job. So I did, and through the kindness of friends and my loving partner, and they supported me through this, and it went on quite a bit. And I was completely dysfunctional, you could say. Dysfunctional in terms of the society that we live in. Please bear that in mind. So went through a pretty difficult time, and can come out the other end with the support and love of the people around me. And I think that's crucial. And then I found shamanism at the other side of that. And shamanism for me put together all the bits and pieces, what it means, what we're here for, why we're interacting in the way we do, and why the dysfunction. And this was the original model. Obviously, it's a Stone Age model of spirituality. So that really helped a lot, and I found myself, I think, for the first time through shamanism, and it continues to give me that beauty and that support in my life. But that's pretty much my story up to date. I'm currently working with people with dementia and Alzheimer's and all that type of thing, and carrying on my shamanic practice as well. So you can see that there's a lot of client groups there. There's a lot of people suffering from negative mental health, under stress, under pressure. And if they are, how are they being treated? That's the question we have to ask. Is our psychiatric services, our psychological services, our caring service, are they up for task? Are they fit for task? And I suppose I wanted to say a wee bit about that, I wanted to say that psychiatry, in many, many cases, compounds the problem, because the orientation is very much a checklist of symptoms. You've got this, you're labeled, and they fire drugs at you. And now, don't get me wrong, there are times when those heavy chemicals and medication are required. If people are on the very edge, if they're ready to commit suicide or take their lives or whatever, I think it's appropriate to numb down the senses to some degree until an appropriate solution can be found. And that's what it does. It numbs down the frontal lobe. Those medications numb down the frontal lobe of the brain. And it's then you can, what happens in most cases, you can get involved in that mental health or psychiatry loop where you're using heavy-duty drugs. Over time, those drugs dissipate in their strength and you become used to them. And then you have to have another mental health crisis. You're put in a hospital, you put on new medication, and round and round and round it goes. It's very much a medical model. It's treating symptoms. And if you go to your doctor or go to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist will have a talk to you and see where you're at and what's the difficulty in your life. And he'll go back to his Bible, which is the DSM-5, it's called, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Health. And he looks up a checklist of symptoms, and if you are exhibiting any of these symptoms, then you've got this condition, you're labeled, and you're given drugs. It doesn't take into account the individual. It's a very systemic approach. It's a very machine model, where you're a cog in the wheel, and if you're dysfunctional, then you are given a checklist. So that's very much the way psychiatry has worked, and quite honestly, psychiatry has worked very negatively over the centuries. Very reactionary. And I think if you look at some of the history of psychiatry, especially in relation to the likes of the deep psychosis or psychoses, like schizophrenia, for instance. This was a common problem in the 1950s, and a solution was found where you could have an immediate cure for schizophrenia, and it can happen in your lunch break. This treatment. So basically, what was being done at the time was what's called frontal lobotomy, which means you have two frontal lobes in your brain, and they're connected by a thin membrane. If that membrane was cut, then that relieved the symptoms of schizophrenia, the hallucinations, the delusions, all that type of thing. Now, how this was done was, in many cases, it was renowned in the media at the time this great cure was found. They used an ice pick and they put it up your nose and they snipped that membrane that allows crossover between the two frontal lobes, and you became a zombie, basically. But you were cured of schizophrenia, but you were no longer able to function in the way that you had been functioning emotionally and so on. So then they discovered this was perhaps a negative, and they began other treatments such as ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. And in my experience, I worked in a psychiatric hospital for 6 years. In my experience, I was at such a ECT treatment, and it's the most horrific and barbaric thing you've ever possibly seen. Obviously, they put electrodes in your head and they make you convulse, and this brings about seizures. And the common thinking at the time was that if you have seizures, you can't have schizophrenia, because people who are epileptic, for instance, don't have schizophrenia. They just don't. It's one of the bizarre things. So they were trying to initiate these seizures, and again, it was a brutalizing of the body, of the mind. Now they've moved on to what is outwardly a better perspective on mental health treatment, and that is through medication and a very limited supply of therapy. And it can be argued that perhaps those medications, those chemicals that are being given to us, have the same effect as a lobotomy or leucotomy. And and numbs us down, burns us out. So that is where we're at the moment. Obviously, we're talking about schizophrenia there, which is again, one of those hardcore psychoses. But it's the same attitude with depression. Throw drugs at it. And that's dysfunctional. And one of the great things for me, I think, was discovering shamanism and discovering that there is an alternative view to all these things. For instance, the shamanic view of mental health is that it's a transition phase, the transition phase to better awareness, better consciousness, that we are being connected with and primed for a movement towards enlightenment. That's the shamanic view, and that it always has been the shamanic view since the Stone Age. That and in the shamanic communities of Ireland and other countries, the people in the tribe would gather around those people that were affected by mental health difficulties, and they would care for them, look after them, and show them love, particularly, and acceptance. This is not happening today, obviously. And it can be said that any mental health condition is the absence of connection and the absence of love. So for the modern day shamanic practitioner, that is how we would treat anyone with mental health difficulties, as loving acceptance. And now, again, I want to make it abundantly clear that there are times when medication, heavy duty medication, is required. I have to say that. And if anyone is on heavy duty medication, to stop immediately is almost lethal. It's really, really bad. It's terribly bad for the psyche and terribly bad for the body as well. So definitely anyone who's listening to this and is on heavy medication, do not come off that medication without consulting with your doctor and beginning a program of this. The shamanic model, as I say, of mental health is one of support and connection, reconnection even. And in the old societies, the old civilizations, it is expected that those people who go through mental health crises will come out the other end more self-aware and more aware of the spirit world and the energetic world and all that. Because in shamanism, illness comes from the energetic first. It begins in the energetic. It begins in the spirit and then manifests in the body. So that's kind of what we're doing when we're taking a shamanic view of mental health. And I think that is the way forward for anyone with mental health difficulties. If we're going into a new normal, I think our brand new world, the golden age, that should be and has to be part of it, that we support around. We've come into the situation where we're in large communities, large cities, New York, London, all those places, and they're fairly soulless places. I spent 5 years in London, and it was a fairly soulless place. Because you're deprived connection, everybody's running around, they're all afraid of each other. If you ever had the experience of being in London on the tube, nobody looks anybody in the eye. They either look up or they look down, because they're all afraid. They're all afraid of bizarre behavior and each other, basically afraid of each other. The problem with modern psychiatry as well is that it numbs us. It numbs our body, it numbs our mind, numbs our senses. And we can no longer work from the heart or feel that natural intuition that is constantly speaking to us in many, many different ways. And I heard somebody say the other day, one of the greatest journeys you'll ever take, one of the most difficult journeys you'll ever take, is that journey from the head to the heart. And that's what we need to be doing. And that's what we're doing when we're meditating, and that's what we're doing when we are connecting with spirit and journeying and all those connections to the spirit world. Because there's a wonderful unseen world out there that is beautiful and loving and caring, unconditional love, really. And it's there for us. And that has always been the shamanic belief and the shamanic understanding. And it certainly is the experience that I've had coming to shamanism, that it's an absolutely beautiful world. But why then are we suffering from all these conditions, these mental health conditions, depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, psychosis, even Alzheimer's? Because we live in a dysfunctional world where greed and capitalism and all those sorts of things are the main thing. Our status is so fundamentally important. We have to have the car, we have to have the house, we have to dress in the right way. And none of that has got anything to do with the person, really. You know, it has nothing to do with the person's heart. It has nothing to do with the person's personality. But we are in that situation where we have to fight against the opinion of others, our peers. There is no room for us to be individuals. So, what can we do about that? First of all, let's do one of the things that we can do. It's just for a very short period of time, be aware of your consciousness. And let's take a step down to the heart. Let's make that journey. And see what the heart is telling us. See what our intuition is telling us. So bring your consciousness down into your heart space. And what's our heart telling us about fear? When you're in the heart space, you're not dealing with those same energies that you have in the head space. You don't have that thought of your status. Have the same fears. Sit in that heart space. What is that heart space telling you? Is it telling you that you're okay? Is it telling you have nothing to be afraid of? We've been disconnected from this small voice for too long. Listen to what it's telling you. Do you feel the beauty there? Okay, let's bring our consciousness back again. Back to our headspace. Okay, so we were saying, what can we do about negative mental health and the negative mental health that we may be in, and we dip in and out of every so often. I don't think there's many people out there that are much different from that. Quite honestly, I think we're all impacted. At some time in our lives, we're all impacted by negative mental health. I think that's the thing. So what can we do about it? What is very, very, very useful is breath work. And that's very much from a shamanic point of view, that if you're concentrating on your breathing, if you're meditating even, a lot of these thoughts can't impinge upon you, and you are dropping down into the heart space. So breath work is very important, and we're going to be doing a little breath work exercise shortly, just to finish off. And each week I'll give you a different breathwork exercise to do, if you choose to follow. And it will help. It will help with depression, anxiety, and the rest of it, the rest of the mental health conditions. Okay, so that's breathwork. Journeying, and again, this is all from a shamanic point of view, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what I do. But journeying is a fantastic way of lifting the spirit and giving yourself a perspective of something that's external to yourself, but it also gives you a perspective on how you are connected to all things, and how there are guides and loving spirits that are there for you, and for your healing, for your understanding, for your information, whatever, for your betterment. Journeying is absolutely terrific. I know some of you have been with me for a lot of journeys up to this point, and maybe some of you have found that connection. And again, what can you do for mental health is you can love the person and you can give them connection, and that's everything. You know, a sense of meaning. If any of you have ever read Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, he suggests that it's one of the most important drives that we have as human beings, is to find meaning in our lives. And if that meaning is taken away, then you're on a very, 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 very rocky road to mental ill health. So meaning is everything. So that's journeying. Meditation, obviously, and breath-related meditation is extremely good as well. And we'll be doing some of those in the weeks to come. Positive affirmations are very, very good. I don't know if any of you have come across Louise Hay. She has some absolutely beautiful positive affirmations. And it's basically a love letter to yourself. You're speaking to yourself about your positive qualities and the positive things that you want to bring into your life. And again, intention is everything. What's really important, though, if you are going through a mental health crisis, is exercise. Exercise is really important. Get the blood pounding through the body. Sleep, which is something I'm very, very bad at. Sleep is so important. It obviously rejuvenates the body and works through the body, and brings us to a state of better mental health with regular sleep, especially with the likes of anxiety. And I know it's very, very difficult to sleep with anxiety, but if you can get sleep, that counteracts the effects of some of the effects of anxiety. Sleep is so important. For depression, also, and for anyone that has depression or had depression, perhaps they know that you could sleep around the clock a lot of the times. Again, it's all individual, you know, but in a lot of cases, that's the case. Hydration is really, really important, and that's another thing I'm not great at. But it's really, really important to give your body the right amount of fluid for it to survive. Not only that, there's great spiritual energy in water. And if any of you are aware of the work of Dr. Emoto and his work around water and inputting positive energy into water and then drinking it. For instance, he did studies around You get a bottle of water, put a label on it. Could be anything. Beautiful, we'll say. Just beautiful, written on the label. He then took that water and he froze it, and he looked at it under a microscope, and the most beautiful patterns would develop. You know, all these positive affirmations. And he then did the negative: hate, war, violence, all that, and put that on the bottle, and it came out the most ugliest patterns. And you can see that yourself. It's as plain as day. Dr. Emoto, E-M-O-T-O. Check it out. Look him up. Absolutely fantastic work. So that's hydration. Really, really important. Nutrition. Obviously, you got to be eating the right things. From my perspective, I would say that a vegan diet is really, really positive, because you're not ingesting the energy of trauma from the animals and all those byproducts, dairy, eggs, and things like that there that these animals are forced to provide. So that's a vegan diet for me is essential. And good nutrition with that too. You know, all the vitamins, B12 and vitamin D and all those sorts of things. That's really, really important. But generally a positive state of mind. If you can do that, if you can keep those regimen going, that routine going, and do your meditation, do your breath work, positive affirmations, that will bring you out of a mental health crisis. Psychosis is more difficult, and I suppose in the weeks to come we'll talk about that. Bipolar is more difficult. But all these things are a reaction to the world we're living in. Like they noticed in the 1950s, there was a profound rise in schizophrenia, 1940s, 1950s, for no apparent reason other than perhaps there were more cars on the road, there was more pollution, more big gas guzzlers on the road. So perhaps that's what we're seeing there in the rise of schizophrenia. Anyway, there's lots we can do for good mental health, and we should, before it catches you. And it can catch you very much unawares, because we are people living in a very, very dysfunctional world that doesn't cater for us. Therefore, you have to wonder whether bad mental health is just a sign of not fitting in to this negative society. And who wants to fit in anyway to this negative society? Okay, well let's finish off with a breathing exercise for anyone, especially good for anyone with anxiety difficulties or, again, depression, those type of things. So I'm going to drum again for this one very lightly. So this is one I sometimes do, or part of this is what I sometimes do. I suggest to do this before journeying to get us into a state of calmness, and this will bring you to calmness. Some people call this boxed breathing, because there's 4 stages to it. You breathe in slowly to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hold that breath for 4, 2, 3, 4. You release it slowly, 2, 3, 4, and you hold that breath for 4. So 4, 4, 4, 4. that breathing pattern going. Breathing in, fully inflating your lungs to capacity. And on the exhale, fully ridding your lungs of all air. And wait for the count of 4 to breathe again. In the shamanic view, a mental health crisis, keep the breathing going, is a lesson that something is not right. Spirit is blessing you with this insight, with this information. Spirit is telling you it's not working out. And in doing that is giving you an opportunity to change, to develop, to grow. Keep the breathing going. Breathe in to the count of 4. Hold for 4. Release for 4. Hold. Breathe again. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Release. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Release. 2, 3, 4. When we look at our fears and the pressures that we're under, we may be reacting to the negativity, and we may have no choice but to react to the negativity in them. But these events, these crises that come along, are like clouds that drift across the sky. And we witness them and we let them move on. We don't fixate on them and we don't hold them, because they are clouds and they do move across our sky. Some of them are light and fluffy and relatively meaningless. Some of them are very dark. Very foreboding. That may rain on us, may snow on us, making us cold, make our world icy. Or it may throw down huge hailstones upon us that batters us. All these fearful events in our life. But they are only clouds. And like clouds, they will pass. So visualize your own difficulties, your own fears, your own worries, your own niggles. See them as clouds passing by your sky. They may stop and they may pelt us for a while, but they have to move on. They must move on. Nothing ever stands still. And the best thing for us to do is sit and witness, acknowledge, and not to fixate on these clouds as they pass us by. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Now, we're coming to the end. So regulate your breathing. Okay, folks, hope you enjoyed that. Obviously, if you're having difficulty with that breathing pattern, don't do it. We can build up to it over time. Don't worry about that. We can all have differences in terms of that. So if it doesn't suit you, it doesn't suit you. Don't use it. But I think the visualization of the clouds going across, whatever crisis comes into your life, it's only a cloud. It will pass. The world will turn and the wind will blow. And let it go. Okay, guys, that is us for tonight. And I'll be back next Sunday. And we're going to go more in depth around depression and what we can do to lighten our mood, which we all could be doing with. And then for those people in crisis, what we can offer them. And obviously it's perspective on depression. If you have any thoughts around this, your own experience or any of those things, please let us know. Let us know. And good mental health. I think that's what Fraser says at the end of his show, isn't it? Anyway, look, we'll be back again 9 o'clock next Sunday. And thanks for joining us tonight. Good night.